Hello, everyone. You're listening to the Small Business Show. My name is Swire Ho, your host for the show. My guest today is Jamin Heppell from Mountain and Marathons. Mountain Marathon is a transformational leadership development organization that delivers life-changing coaching program for entrepreneur, executive, and leaders, where all their programs graduates with an epic physical challenge, like running a marathon or climbing a mountain in iconic location around the world. Jamie and his business partner Jen were acknowledged as one of the top 20 leadership coaches to watch out for in 2021 by the Australian Business Journal. How are you doing, Jamie?
Swire, really good. Excited to be here.
Love to find out more about your journey, and especially if you can let me know why. When I talk about coaching, people think about just doing a Zoom call or in person, working out the details, but not you. You wanted to take them to run a marathon and take them to the mountain. Why is that?
Yeah, so I mean, our view on leadership is that it starts within. It's an inner game before we then go out. And so the nature of designing a leadership training program that has an epic physical challenge like running a marathon or climbing a mountain at the end of it, well, it does a couple of things. One is it supports accountability around holistic transformation, ensuring that we are, as leaders, we are balanced across all life areas. So we're not just working on, what's going on internally, we're also taking care of our bodies and our mental health and our physical health. And then also the context of having an exciting future to live into informs and influences how we show up moment by moment on the day to day. And so by designing this program over 6 months, it means that we can take anybody who may have never, only be able to run 5 kilometers or hike 5 kilometers right now, to be able to get them across the course of 6 months to a place where they're able to summit Mount Kilimanjaro or run the Patagonia Marathon. These things become possible when we design this program over the course of 6 months.
Do people wanted to take on that challenge, or they're stuck when they reach out to you? Like, what is the thought process? Like, why would one, let's say they're stuck. I want to grow my business. I'm not there yet. I want to change my life to be better, right? Like, what prompted them to make that switch?
Nice. So I think to speak into that, we call it the Align Leadership Program. And so when we speak about alignment, this is really about, we define living in alignment as living in congruence with your truth, living in harmony with what you think, what you feel, what you say, and what you do. And so for people who are in a place where they feel stuck, be that stuck in a career that they're not sure if they want to continue down this path, potentially feeling stuck in a relationship, or maybe at a place where they're stepping into a major transition, be that like kids have all just left home and now I'm no longer a primary caregiver. Like, what do I do with the rest of my life? And when people find themselves in this place of inquiry, or potentially even have sold their first business and done their first major exit, and now being like, well, what's next for me? When people are in these places of either feeling stuck or just uncertain about what the future looks like, this is when we find these are the people who we know we serve best inside the Align Leadership Program. And the reason is because these are people who know that something more is available for them. They know that living a more deeply aligned life is available. They're just not quite sure how to get there. In addition to that, because that's primarily the leadership coaching that we introduce inside of the program. That's the group coaching and the individual one-on-one coaching. But the physical challenge at the end, now, whether someone's ran a marathon or climbed a mountain before doesn't matter. It's more so about activating that spirit of adventure that lives inside nearly every person. Now, some people have this spirit of adventure more than others. And many people experience an ignited spirit of adventure in their teenage years or maybe in their early 20s. But then when work and family and all these of life's obligations take over, the spirit of adventure or the activation on that spirit simmers a little bit. And so this program is really an invitation to those who find themselves a little bit stuck or ready to step into the next chapter of their life and know that there's a part of their spirit for adventure hasn't been satiated, and know that something like taking on a marathon in Patagonia or Hawaii, or climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, or climbing to Machu Picchu in Peru, any of these kinds of challenges would activate that spirit of adventure, combined with supporting people to move from a place of stagnancy or curious about what's next for their life.
That's very interesting. I think if you agree with me that, sometimes we're so focused on a business or whatever challenge that we have at the office, when we actually stimulate it with physical activity, that actually kind of change our mindset. Would you agree? And how would you guide them through the training process, and then in turns learning leadership skills as well?
Yeah, nice. So I think what's helpful here is to like divide up the nature of how we support people. So one of the things is, so Jen and I, who run, we're the primary leadership coaches of the Align Leadership Program. We really support people with the personal stuff, with the leadership challenges in a family context, in a workplace context, in a internal conflict. That's where we really do our work and support with people. Inside the program, we also have a world-class fitness coach and a world-class nutrition coach. And so these additional coaches really support each individual to have a tailored nutrition and fitness training plan to set themselves up for taking on the physical challenge of running a marathon or climbing a mountain. Now, inside of that, what we see is that when people start to take a high level of responsibility for bringing their entire life into alignment, which includes their physical health, like really prioritizing taking care of their physical being, getting themselves fit and healthy in the right mindset, that immediately translates into other areas of their life. Because if we start feeling good in our body, that immediately translates into like feeling better in the workplace, feeling more agile and socially nimble when we're navigating conflict in the household. Like simply by moving our body consistently and obviously in a targeted way, specifically training for a big event, it really supports all areas of life. And for anyone who's consistently exercising can certainly testify to the benefits of regularly exercising, and especially if there's an exciting event coming up.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, and especially for myself, I think the goal setting part will be very good as well. For example, you have never run anywhere from here to the vending machine, right? So, but you decided you want to do a marathon. So I think the goal setting process, excuse me, is great as well, because that that's your goal, and then there's maybe a time frame that you need to achieve the goal. So let's say, assuming that you're at the finish line, and then you look backwards for the past 6 to 9 months or whatever time periods that you set. What do you have to do daily? What do you have to do weekly? Or what do you do in a chunk period to achieve that goal? So by knowing what the outcome will be, setting a hefty goal for yourself, then you actually have more clarity, like you're sharing, for what needs to be done to achieve that goal.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And I think this is where, the nature of the metaphor of the mountain or the metaphor of the marathon is a beautiful translation to other layers of life. And what you're speaking into there is exactly right. If you're not running to the vending machine yet, saying yes to a marathon, I mean, that's a pretty audacious, it's a big thing to say yes to.
Mhm.
But when we say yes to this big audacious goal, and then we're intentional about getting the right guidance, like for instance, getting the right coach, and then having them be able to break down these micro goals across the course of 6 months to really have you set up for consistently, progressively improving your fitness, then sure enough, within 6 months, there you are standing at the start of the marathon going, "Oof, like I'm excited and I'm ready."
Especially, I think, speaking for entrepreneur and high achieving individual, a lot of times what they would do, and they have a lot of coaches and consultants for that too. Like, they know how to build their business. They maybe want to go public for the company, or maybe they want to have so much money that could be multi-generational. But I think I get this concept from a chiropractor friend of mine, Vincent, before. What if you could build a 100-year-old lifestyle? What could that be? How would you change what you eat every day? What would you change how you do every day? Do you sit on your chair just slouching like that, or do you take breaks, or do you really take goals physically? So what if you have all the money in the world, but then you have to sit on a wheelchair? Does that do you any good?
Mhm, mhm. This is all part of the question about like what does it mean for each individual to live in their deepest alignment. And that's one of the core
Mhm.
questions that we lead the program with, is really inviting people to consider, okay, like if I was to live my life in deepest alignment of all the things that are important to me, what would that ideally look like? And then from that place, we call that clarity. And with this deep sense of clarity, clarity is power. With clarity, we're able to make decisions with conviction. And then it may require taking some courageous and bold actions to bring things into alignment. But if people are clear on what living a truly aligned life means to them, then from our standpoint, it's like, okay, well, what is it actually going to take, and what's it going to look like to bring someone's life into complete alignment? So, for instance, if someone is experiencing this sense of feeling, overweight or lethargic or low on energy or not motivated, but they're in touch with, oh, I'd love to be inspired, I'd love to be fit and healthy, I'd love to be able to run marathons. It's like, well, that's actually available. Like, as a future, that is available. The question then is going, well, okay, well, however I'm currently showing up, whatever I'm currently doing isn't in alignment with that possibility of running the marathon. And so then from this place, we then look at, okay, well, what are we doing? How are we showing up on a moment by moment, daily, weekly, monthly basis that's aligned with the future that we want to live into, and where's it not? And so this is where we call, like, living aligned versus living misaligned, and doing a deep inquiry into every layer of life to look at, okay, where is there room for greater levels of alignment, so that we're intentionally orienting our trajectory to be congruent with the vision that we hold, with that clarity that we know of what living a truly aligned life means to us.
Yeah, I really like that topic. Like you mentioned living aligned with yourself, and then also creating an aligned business. I think as an entrepreneur, people who listening will probably ask, what's in it for me? What's my return on investment? Do I need to spend hours, training on the street, not focusing on my business? Like, how would you guide them? Obviously, they have to take time to train for it. They have to maybe change their lifestyle a little bit. But can you talk about the correlation between having yourself aligned and then you can align your business?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, if we're looking at aligned, like, it depends if we're talking about aligned lifestyle or aligned business, because these are two distinct conversations. From our standpoint, if we look at mountains and marathons, as a company, as a leadership development company, me and my business partner, Jen, we sit down and very deliberately look at, what does creating a deeply aligned business look like for us? And so we start with the same question, and we really discern that clarity. For us, it's about integrating adventure. It's about integrating the kind of experiences that are going to call for us to continue to remain fit, healthy, and being the best version of ourselves. It's the kind of business that's going to be continually requiring us to be leveling up and upskilling. It's the kind of business that gives us geographic freedom. It's the kind of business that has us meet really inspiring people from all over the world. It's the kind of business that is going to naturally present other exciting opportunities to run retreats and other things that really inspire us. And so, we're clear on these kind of core values and core principles that we want to build an aligned business around. From this place, we then design programs and products that are in servitude to what living and creating an aligned business looks like for us. So that's one part of it. The next part, well, that's one side of it. The other side of it then is like doing that for ourselves, which is what I was speaking into before. It's like, okay, to live an aligned life, what does that look like, to live an aligned life? And so from here, well, yes, we can focus specifically on the fitness side of things. Like, how do I bring my fitness into alignment? Yep, we want to have a goal. We want to have a coach and a guide. We want to have accountability. And then we want to be structuring our day-to-day schedule to allow for the discipline of actually following through on the fitness training plan, so that when we're progressively getting better and better. Similarly, though, maybe the focus is on improving the quality of your relationship with your kids. It's like, okay, well, that in itself requires time, energy, and focus. And from my standpoint, it's really helpful to have guidance, to have a professional sounding board, to be able to get an understanding of what the dynamic of the parent-to-child relationship is, and what are some of the points of friction. Okay, where might we be able to create more capacity for deeper levels of alignment? Maybe it is having a weekly date night with your kid. Maybe it's about actually just getting outside and playing more. Maybe it's supporting with the homework. Like, there's so many ways that we can bring relationships into deeper alignment. But first of all, we want to get clear on where it's at and where we'd love for it to be. And where we'd love for it to be, we define as like the most aligned relationship possible. Similarly, in the workplace or in a career standpoint, it's like so many people live and work from a place where, I call it, Gay Hendricks coined this term. He calls it zone of genius versus zone of excellence. Zone of excellence is where people are really good at the thing that they do, but it's not the thing that sets their soul on fire. It's not the thing where they feel energized after they've done it. And a good example of that is, and I can use Jen, my business partner, as a great example. Jen, she's amazing at like detail and tracking the numbers and being across the data. Like, she's very analytical in that way. That's her zone of excellence. She's really good at it, but it doesn't set her soul on fire, and it has her feel drained, at the end of a day when she's been doing that kind of work. But Jen's zone of genius is in personal leadership coaching, like aligned leadership coaching. That's where she comes off the back of her work day going, "Woof, I am G'd up. Like, this was an incredible day. I'm energized." And, so if we translate this into other people, it's like so many people are living and operating from their zone of excellence when they actually know that if they were working from their zone of genius, their experience of being alive, their experience of their career, their experience of their contribution to the community and to the world at large is so much more amplified because, they're living from that power place, which is the thing that they are just always naturally been really, really good at. So from my standpoint, if someone's operating from their zone of excellence versus their zone of genius, well, they're actually living misaligned in a career sense. So again, that's a meaningful inquiry for someone to be looking at going, okay, well, I'm discontent in my career. I'm really good at it, but I'm discontent in it. What is my zone of genius? How might I be able to orient my career so I'm operating more from my zone of genius? So there's many different ways. You can see here that like living an aligned life requires a deep inquiry into all these different components or life areas. And then I guess part of the key part that we do, or what we facilitate inside Marathons and the Aligned Leadership Program, is supporting, regardless of what that life area is, supporting you to really orient that layer of your life, that part of your life, to come into deep alignment, because we know that when people graduate within the 6 months, some profound shifts have happened and they reflect back and go, "Oof, I can't believe where I was compared to where I am today."
Do you notice when you coach a client, do people are willing to change? What if I'm an entrepreneur? I have certain assumption, right? We as an entrepreneur, we have a lot of assumption, or we have success in a business. We believe we are, you know, better in a certain way. Do you think most people are coachable? What if in during the process, I get discouraged. I really can go up to the mileage or to the extent of the physical activity. How would you guide them through that process?
Nice, yeah. Well, I think a good example here is we had a past member. His name's Ben, and so Ben, he was the founder CEO of a really large tech safety company, information technology safety company, and he came and did our program after his company had been alive for 6 years, and I think it had 120 employees, and he was at a stage where he was questioning. He's like, "Do I want to keep doing this? Like, is this my path, or am I out?" And so he came into the program with that inquiry. And what we were able to reveal quite early on was it was a question of like, well, okay, well, what are the parts of your role that you really don't like? What are the parts of your role that are really energy draining? And he's like, this, and this. And we're like, okay, man, well, what if you were able to alleviate the layers of responsibility you had for those specific parts of your role, and so have other people be able to take on, and you get additional support to take on the parts that you really drain your energy? If that was in place, what would be your relationship to the business? And he said, whoa, he's like, that would actually take off a tremendous load off my shoulders. And that would actually then give me more cognitive and emotional freedom to think more about the vision and the strategic direction. And that's actually where I want to spend my time. I'm like, okay, cool. So it sounds to me, man, it's not so much about like you're questioning whether you want to leave this company. It just sounds to me like where you're channeling your energy right now is kind of draining. And so then it's having you question whether you want to keep doing this. Truth is, you love this company, you want to keep working, you want to keep leading here. Just the way in which you're currently leading isn't aligned with your best. And he's like, yeah, that's exactly it. And so within 3 weeks of coaching conversations, he was then able to be in action to bring people in to start to delegate some of the things that were energy drainers for him. So then by the end of the program, he was still well and truly the CEO and strategic visionary of the company, but a lot more free and inspired by what he was doing relative to where he was when he started the program.
Yeah, it sounds like almost you're having client to try something new. Not necessary. You have to run a marathon or climb a mountain, but really with that process, you engage them to think differently. Maybe they discover that there are so many baggage or certain challenges that they have in their life or business. And then in turn, you point that out and then you work together to help them achieve their goals.
Correct. Exactly right. Exactly right. And even just another example, there's a woman named Kate who, when she started the program, she was working at she was a senior executive for a very big pharmaceutical company. And when she started the program, within the first week, she's like, "Oh, living aligned is hard." And I was like, "Kate, why is that?" And she's like, "Oh, it's just like it really has me look at all the parts of my life that aren't where I want them to be." And I'm like, "It's exactly right. It's exactly right." Now, the reality is these things have been there in your life for probably quite a long time now. Now you're just finally looking at it and getting in touch with the emotional impact of living this way. She's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Cool. Hey, what's the thing? Like, what's the thing you're afraid to confront?" And she's like, she's a very, very successful executive for this big pharmaceutical company. And she's like, "My marriage. I know that the man I'm with is not the guy that I'm meant to be with. And I've known that for a lot of years now." I'm like, "Okay, cool. Thanks for sharing. That's a big deal. Like, that's significant. And what's it like living inside this marriage that is misaligned?" And she's like, "It's so draining. It's so hard because I know that there's like more love for me out there and I've got so much love to give, but this is just not the person. It's just not, this is not my most aligned relationship." I'm like, "Okay, well, a transformation and transition needs to occur here." Now, we don't from this place. We didn't immediately jump into like, what does it look like to be in divorce? But across the course of the 6 months, like, divorce was brought on the table, divorce was executed on. And then from there, she then transitioned. Then she actually distinguished by the end of the program, my current role within my executive role isn't in deepest alignment, but what I really want to do is start a company that I've wanted to start for the last 8 years. So it was kind of like what we recognized was after she was able to bring her romantic life into deeper alignment, which was the biggest, most glaringly obvious thing that was holding her back. Once that was cleared up and come into alignment, it then gave her freedom to actually start to look at, what do I really want to do? Because prior to that, she was afraid, but after executing on the most challenging and scariest thing, she was then able to have more, she was able to leverage that courage to then take the next step, which is to actually transition from her corporate career and then step into being a founder CEO of a brand new startup, of which 2 months ago she just got her first $1 million round of funding, which occurred 8 months after she graduated her program. So again, the nature of alignment is, it's like, as we address the biggest, most glaringly obvious things in our life that are out of alignment, it creates courage and momentum to then really concentrate on other areas. So then we're slowly working at bringing every layer of our life into deeper alignment. And so then naturally, by the time we get to the end of the program, and like, to speak into the mountain of the marathon, some people are looking for health transformations. And so that becomes the big thing that they're trying to bring into deeper alignment, is their health. It's like, awesome. Their ultimate challenge is then succeeding in running the marathon or climbing the mountain. Like, that's the biggest celebration. That's the exam. For other people, they may have already run 8 or so marathons before. So running a marathon isn't the big deal. But they're the people that know that there's other key life areas, be that romantic relationship or career, relationship with kids. They're the ones who get to the start line of the marathon. I go, "How you feeling?" They're like, "Jamin, I've already ran my marathon. I'm just here to have a good day." And I'm like, "Damn right. Like, you ran your marathon in the 6 months leading up to this. Let's just have fun today." So everyone experiences the celebration and their exam throughout the program in different ways.
Yeah, I love the example, and I will agree. Having a momentum while you're doing things, especially it could be in your life, it could be in your business. You can walk by, your house, for example, with the same holes in your yard that you all walk by for years. But once you start doing work on your house, then you notice that hole,
Bingo.
and maybe today is the day that you fix that hole. Same for your business. Maybe there are things that you know that exists that didn't perform well, but you just too busy, right? Quoting an entrepreneur, we're always busy. Then you never have time to fix it. But while you're doing it, while you're improving yourself, then you know that these area needs to be addressed, or it needs to be fixed, or it could be improved. Now you really have to time it, and you're willing to put in the effort, actually, doing that better.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a really good example, and in fact, even the process that we guide people through the Align Leadership Program is clarity, clearing, and creation. And so clarity, clarity. I've already spoken into that. That's the vision. That's like what's the vision of the business? What's an aligned business? What's an aligned life? Clearing. Well, that's the piece where we really look at what's misaligned in our life, and then we move into creation, which is then setting up the pragmatic and energetic systems to support the fulfillment of where we really want to go. But if I'm speaking to clearing just in a little bit more detail, that example of you're doing work on the house and then you've walked past these holes in the house so many times, but you don't even register it because there's all this other work that needs doing. But then as you start to get to work, it's like, those holes need taking care of. What we call that inside of clearing, we call that dead weight. And so dead weight are the things in your life that you have said that you would do by a certain point in time, and they remain incomplete. So as we would say, they're now out of integrity. And so we call this dead weight because it's kind of like spiritual baggage that we carry, where there's like all of these things on the to-do list that remain incomplete and undone, that we continue to carry with us into our life and into our day. And some of these things might be a week old, others might be years old. And so one of the things we actually integrate into the program is a dead weight cleanup process. So we have everyone identify, list down all the things that are incomplete that you said that you would do, back in the past, that are currently incomplete. And then before we say go and get to work on it, we first actually get people clear on how important is it actually? Like, has it just been sitting on the list, but it's actually no longer important? Because if that's the case, we delete it. But if it's like, no, I said I'd clean the garage. I said I'd clean the garage 12 months ago, and the garage is still a mess, and it's really important that gets done because it's going to make the whole family happier, and it's going to make me happier. Great. Clean the garage. Find a time in your calendar, dedicate your half a day, go and get that done. Like, we literally integrate that into the program. And so what we find is that when people write down their dead weight list, really consider what is most important that needs to get done, that legitimately exists as dead weight. Then from that place, we're like, cool, you've got between now and the rest of the program to clean up your dead weight list. And what we find is that people step into these simple, pragmatic things. It opens up, as I say, it's like spiritual baggage. It's like that drops away, which then creates more levity, more lightness in the body, more freedom in the cognition, more trust in self, to then be able to tackle other things that need clearings. For instance, it might be stuff that might be blocked from in our emotional body, that stemmed from a bad work engagement from years before, or maybe a challenging time during childhood or high school that still remains unresolved in your emotional body. So then it's like, okay, well that's dead weight. How are we clearing out the dead weight inside the body, the emotional body, which then again, as you can imagine, as people heal estranged relationships with their parents or heal estranged relationships with their kids, that too starts to create more emotional freedom, which then gives us greater access to creativity, greater access to our zone of genius, and then more opportunity to live fully aligned. So these are just a couple of examples of the ways in which clearing plays out and supports people to ultimately come into a place of living in their deepest alignment and deepest truth.
I think things like this is definitely worthwhile to invest in yourself and to hire coaches like yourself, because when you walk past a certain things, when you do a certain things, and then you kind of trick yourself into it's not a problem, it's not a problem. But if you work on a coach who really understand what you're trying to do and to share with what your goals are, they can point out things pretty quickly. I'm sure that when you work with client, once they told you about what they're going through, what they're trying to achieve, then immediately you will point out things that are known to them already, but they decided not to address it.
Bingo. And that's where the nature of coaching is very powerful, because it's and if I speak specifically about the Align Leadership Program, the Align Leadership Program, there's nowhere to hide. It's like whatever it is that you haven't been willing, that you know sits there as the thing that needs to be worked on and looked at. And for most people, they will often use their career and work life as a distraction from actually putting time and energy into the things that actually need their time and attention. And they'll continually justify putting off the deeper emotional work that needs to be done because culturally it's easier for us to say work is more important right now. Work is the priority. I need to put bread on the table. Now, don't get me wrong. We certainly need to be paying the bills, but people can use work as an excuse not to actually go and do the deeper work that's necessary to, like, as we say, live in deeper alignment. And so this is where, something like, great coaches and the Aligned Leadership Program really is. It's an invitation. It's an invitation to safely, graciously, without rushing, but not wasting any time, hold up the mirror and have a look. Hey, like, how is this area of my life? And is it where I really want it to be? And in that, okay, I'm clear that it's not where I really want it to be. And then you've got people to support you and guide you into being able to, like, acknowledge, okay, well, what's at the source of it? And then how do we course correct to bring it into alignment? From my standpoint, it's a really, really, it's a necessary and powerful process that's like a training for those who graduate and complete the program. It's a training for the rest of their life, because that's ultimately where we want people left with, is we want them empowered with the skills and tools to continue after they graduate, living into deeper and deeper alignment well beyond they finish the date that they finish their program.
That's great. Jamin, I think, at this point, I wanted to find out more about how listeners to get in touch with you. I know that you also train clients internationally. So what would be the best way to reach out if they wanted to find out more about, how this coaching program can help them?
Yeah, nice. I mean, so just for context too, so Jenny, myself, and our team, we're all nomadic, avid travelers. So I'm currently in Costa Rica. I'll be in Hawaii next week, and then France after that, and Tanzania a month after that. So you can catch us anywhere in the world. Unfortunately, we've got this beautiful thing called the internet, which means that we can serve and support no matter where you are. And so where people can find us is in all the usual places. So if you want to have a look a little bit more at the Aligned Leadership Program, just go to mountainsandmarathons.world, and you'll be able to click on our latest upcoming program, which is our Mount Kilimanjaro Aligned Leadership Program. So you'll be able to check that out and find out more details. And if you want to go to the next step, just click inquire and submit an inquiry form. And then if you'd like to just simply follow along Mountains and Marathons and just be amidst the field, the vibe, the culture, there are two places you can do that. One is on Instagram at Mountains and Marathons, and then the other one is joining our free Facebook community, where Jenny and I are constantly providing free snippets of value that are simple things that you can be integrating into your life to bring your life into deeper alignment. That's a free Facebook group. It's called Living Aligned by Mountains and Marathons. So you can just search that in the Facebook bar and you'll be able to find us there, and we'll be able to accept your request to join. And then if you'd like to follow me personally, you find me on Instagram at Jamin Heppell. So you can just search that, and I'm sure you'll be able to catch the name close by. And then, otherwise, email Jamin at mountainsandmarathons.world. These are probably the easiest ways to get in contact.
Yeah, I'll also put all the contact information Jamin just mentioned on the show notes. So feel free to reach out to him. Jamin, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
So good, Swai. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks, mate.
Thanks.